In this video, I'm going to explain how to create the small wooden house and the snow environment in Blender. Before that, I'm working as a freelancer in Fiverr. If you need any 3D interior scene or 3D assets, feel free to contact me. Let's dive in. I'm going to bring a plane, then scale it in Y-axis slightly. After that, insert it, then again extrude it. Now press Shift D to duplicate and right click to place it there. Again extrude it and then press SX. Then place your mouse here and press L to select this loose part. After that, slightly scale it in Y-axis and do the same in X-axis. Then insert this face and then extrude it inside slightly. Now select these three face and then press Alt T, extrude face along normals to add some extrusion. Now press Ctrl R and 10 in numpad to add some loop cuts. Then add a 4 loop cut here and then add a 3 loop cut here. Finally add one loop cut here. Now select this face, Shift D to duplicate and then press SZ0 in numpad to flatten Z axis. After that bring it down, then extrude it up and then insert it. Finally extrude it inside. I'm going to add some loop cut here to have nice geometry. Now select these faces in the material properties. I'm going to bring this material and then rename it as a wooden house. Then click plus and then click new. I'm going to rename it as a stone, and then by selecting these faces, if you click assign, these faces will assign to the stone material. Then in edit mode, I'm going to select these edges and slightly scale it like this, and then in x-axis also. Then extrude it, press F to fill. Now add a 2 loop cut here and then press SY. Then press Ctrl B to bevel it. Add a 1 loop cut. Add a 1 loop cut here and then add another 1 loop cut here, and finally add a loop cut here. In this way, add a 2 loop cuts. Finally add one loop cut and slightly bevel it. Now select these faces here and then extrude it inside by holding Shift. Select these face to deselect it. Then delete the selected center faces. Then add a 3 loop cut here and then add a 4 loop cut here. I think here 2 loop cut is fine. Then in this way I add a 2 loop cut, and here also I'm going to give a small design to my wooden house door. Now select the faces I'm selecting. After that, insert it slightly. Now select these faces here. These faces will be our window. Then press Alt E, extrude face along normals to little bit extrusion. Now click plus, click new, rename it as a window, and then click assign to assign those faces to the window material. Now I'm going to add a 3 loop cut here. Select this edge, press shifters, cursor to selection, and then I'm going to bring a cylinder and reduce my vertex count to 12. I'm making as a low poly because my camera will be here and then my wooden hose will be here. You can clearly see my wooden hose will be far away from my camera view, so it doesn't need to be a high poly, so we can make it as a low poly. Now I'm going to press yes to totally scale it my cylinder. Then press yes and shift. Now press yes by holding Shift Z. It will scale it in X and Y axis only. Then I'm going to bring it up and then select this face and slightly bring it up, and I'm going to, I think, reduce even more. Yeah, I think it looks fine. Then in top view, I'm going to press Shift D Y to move it here. Then press Shift R to repeat the action. Then again duplicate. Then press Shift R to repeat the action. Finally select all those cylinders, Shift T to duplicate. Now press SY -1, then press SZ -1 to flip it. Then place it here correctly like this. Then in wireframe, this is my door, so I'm going to delete these cylinders here. Yeah, these cylinders, I think this cylinder is enough. Then I'm going to right click shade smooth, and for the house also I'm going to right click shade smooth, and I think I'm going to add a bevel modifier and reduce the amount to 0.001. It looks fine. Then I'm going to press Shift A, curve, path, and bring it above. Then in object data properties under geometry, you can increase the depth. It will have a it will have a cylindrical shape. Then in top view, in edit mode, I'm going to select these 3 vertex and delete it. Then I'm going to move it and adjust my cylinder, then select it and then extrude it like this. Now totally have a circular way. Now if you see, we have a gap here. If you enable fill cap, it will add a face. Then I'm going to reduce my resolution here to 6. Yeah, I think this looks fine. Then I'm going to shift the duplicate and then bring it down, then reduce the depth value totally, then shift D and bring it down, press shift R twice to repeat the action. Now if you see, my object is in curve, you can clearly see that. So I'm going to select this pie object, right click, convert to mesh, and for this object I'm going to add a separate material called wood. Now first I will select this object, click new, and then rename this material as a wood. Now select the other pie object and finally select this object. Now press Ctrl L. If you click link materials, it will add the same material to all the selected objects. See, that's all. Now we have it. Now select all these objects and move it here. Now we want a rock. For that, make sure that you enable the extra objects add-on. Now press shift A, mesh. You can clearly see I have a rock generator. Now my rock is here because my cursor is here. And then in this pop-up menu, I'm going to increase my number of rocks to, I think 7 will be good. I'm going to move a 1 rock here. Then I'm going to close this window, then in right side corner click and drag it. I'm going to change this as a shader editor. Then make sure that you enable the node wrangler add-on also. Now I'm going to click new and then rename it as a rock. Then I'm going into material preview for now. After adding all the materials, I'm going into the render view finally. For now, I will be in material preview. By selecting this node, press Ctrl Shift T, and I have provided all these textures link in the description, so you can feel free to download it. Then I have a rock texture here. I'm going to select this 4 and then bring it. Then select this rock and finally select this. Press Ctrl L and then click link materials to link it with the same material, but we can clearly see it has some textures problem. So in edit mode, by select everything, press U, UV unwrap, click smart UV project, it looks fine, right? But there is another one thing I have to do. I want snow in top of my rock. For that, first I'm going to duplicate this node. Then I already have a snow texture, see here. So I'm going to bring these 4 textures here. And then I'm going to bring a separate XYZ, place it here. By selecting this node, press Ctrl T, move it here, and then I don't need the image texture. Then connect this vector to vector. If you don't know what separate XYZ means, it will separate these 3 axes. I will show you how. Now before that, I'm going to connect this object to the vector, then hold Ctrl Shift and select the separate XYZ. You can clearly see the X line is that, right? So in Z axis it is separating. Then again, if you select this node, now we can clearly see the Y and we can clearly see Z. Like I said, I want a snow in my top of the rock, right? So I think Z will be the point. Then if you see here, I have a separate 2 displacement node. By selecting these 2 node, press Ctrl 0 to connect it with the mix color. Then bring this principal BSDF here and then another one here. Then bring mix shader, place it here. Now what I'm going to do, the first value will take black and second is white. I'm going to bring color run and place it here to adjust some values. See, I can adjust it like this. Then I'm going to connect the color to the mix factor. I want snow on the top of the, in the white area, right? So like I said, the first value will take black, second value will be white. My snow is this node. So connect this to the second and connect the rock principal to the first, and I'm going to preview it. Now we have it. By selecting all these rocks, press M, click new collection, then rename it as a rock. And finally, we want a snow tree. I'm not going to do it from a scratch. I already made a video how to create a tree and changing leaf colors and finally adding snow to the tree. The video link in the description, you can feel free to watch it. I'm going to change this to asset browser. In libraries, you can see I have my separate nature asset folder. In here, I have a snow tree. And there is another one thing, if you don't know how to add your 3D models to your asset browser like this, then I made a video for that too. The video link in the description. After watching that video, you can also create a separate folders and you can also add your 3D models like this. In nature assets, I have a snow tree, so I'm going to just click and drag to bring it and place it here. That's all. See, now we have it. Now we have one part, that is to add textures to our house. So first what I'm going to do, select this house. We are in window material, so I'm going to change this to shader editor. Shader editor, delete this principal node. Now shift A, bring a transparent BSDF, then again in add menu, bring the glossy BSDF, reduce the roughness to 0.1 by selecting these two node, press Ctrl 0 to connect it with mix shader and then preview it. Now it looks fine. Then select the stone. I am going to bring the rock material. So likewise, I already have my rock material. So I'm going to that folder and just select the texture and then bring it here, but this is also having some textures problem. So in edit mode, I'm going to select this, press U, UV unwrap, smart UV project. After that, it looks fine. Now select the wooden house and select the principal BSTF, and I have a wooden floor texture. So I'm going to select all these texture and bring it. Likewise, it is also facing some applying texture issues. So likewise in edit mode, select everything and then press U, UV unwrap, smart UV project. Now it looks fine. Then I'm going to increase my scale up to 10 and change the Z rotation to 90. It looks fine. But my wooden house color is so brightness, I don't need that. I'm going to reduce it. For that, I'm going to bring RGB curves and add menu, then just click, you will have a dot and you can bring it down to reduce the brightness. And finally, I'm going to reduce my displacement scale to 0.1. Now select this object, and for this object, I'm going to bring the wood material. In here I'm going to bring these 4 textures, place it here. These also facing some texture issues, so I'm going to select all these objects here, like see here. Likewise, then edit mode, select everything, give UV unwrap, smart UV project. Now it looks fine. Then reduce the displacement scale to 0.2. Then I'm going to increase my scale up to 5. Then I don't need this brightness color. I'm going to reduce that. For that, again, I'm going to bring my RGB curves, place it here, and then just bring it down to have some dark color. Now I'm going to bring my cursor here, then bring a plane, and I'm going to bring it down slightly. Then in edit mode, press S 50 to scale it 50 times the plane. Then press Shift A. We have a camera here, bring it. Now in this view, I'm going to press Ctrl Alt and numpad 0 to bring your camera in this perspective view. After that, press N. In view option, if you enable the camera to view, you can adjust your camera view like this. See, I think I'm going to bring my I move my tree here. Then select the plane. In edit mode, select everything, right click, subdivide, and then press Shift R to repeat the action like this. I'm going to wireframe and then select these vertex I'm selecting. Then in what it is called, object data properties, click new and then click assign. Now the all selected faces will be assigned to this vertex group. Then for the plane, I want a snow texture. For the click new, I'm going to rename it as a snow. Then I already have a snow material, so I'm going into that folder and I'm bringing those 4 textures, and then I'm going to increase the scale 5. It looks fine. Finally, I'm going to change this window to geometry nodes. Now click new. I'm going to rename it as a tree. Now press Shift A, then bring a distribution points on faces and place it here. then change the random to points on disk, and you can clearly see we have so many number of points. It will take all the faces and assign as a point. Now I'm going to reduce the density max to 0.1 for now. Then I'm going to connect the distance minimum to here, I mean to this group input. If you connect it in modifier, you can clearly see we can change the number in here also. Then I'm going to change this to 0 for now, connect the density max and density factor, and then seed also. Then I'm going to bring the instance on points, place it here, and finally bring the join geometry. We want to see our plane, right? So connect it then connect the input geometry to the join geometry. You can clearly see now our plane is back. After that, select the snow tree and bring it here. This is a shortcut, or in object menu, in add menu, you can also bring the object info and you can select the snow tree in the drop down menu, or you can use the eyedrop to select your tree. Then connect the geometry to the instance. Now we have a tree. Now press 0 to come out of the camera view. Now if you see, my tree is all over the plane. I don't need that. We have created a vertex group before. In modifier, click this option in the drop down menu, select the group. See, now I have tree here only. Now press 0 to again go into camera view. Then select the camera in the object data properties, under viewport display, increase the passport out to 1. Then I'm going to reduce the scale. For that, shift A, bring the random value, place it here, and then connect the value to the scale. Now I'm going to increase the minimum to 0.15 and then maximum to 0.35. Nope, I think 0.25. Yeah, 0.25 will be fine. And for the rotation, I'm going to click and drag, bring a random value, and then select these two and change this to 0. Now you can increase the minimum value is that, and then maximum value is that also. Now I'm going to connect the minimum to the group input and the maximum to the group input for the scale. Then I think I'm going to increase the density max to 0.3. I think I don't want trees in this view, so that I can clearly see my wooden house. For that, I'm going to press 7 in top view. Now select the object data properties, press Control Tab, and then go into weight paint, or you can go to the weight paint here. You can clearly see our selected faces are showing red. The unselected faces will be blue. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, by holding Control, just click and drag. See, now this area will be blue. That means in this area this won't assign a tree. For example, you can clearly see by holding Control and click and drag, see my tree is gone. So in camera view, I'm going to adjust it. Yeah, I think you can clearly see I have a tree inside my house also. I don't need that, so I'm going to make these areas blue. Yeah, I think this looks fine. So again, I'm going into my camera view and I will check it. Yeah, this looks fine. Finally, going into modifier tab, then click plus and then click geometry nodes. I'm going to click this option to disable it for now. Then in drop down menu, bring the tree, click this option to make this object as a separate geometry nodes. After that, I'm going to delete this object info, then click the rock collection, click and drag it to bring it. Then enable this separate children and then reset children. And remember one thing, if you are going to use a collection info, enable the pick instance. Okay, first I'm going to reduce my density max way down, and then if you click this option, we can clearly see our rocks. See, we have a rock. If you click pick instance, it will instantly select the separate object, but we are facing some problem. What that means, yeah, I have my rock here, but you can clearly see my origin is center of the rock. I'm going to select these rocks and then in edit mode, I'm going to bring it up. So likewise, I can bring my origin to the bottom of the rock. See, like this. Now I have a rock. Then in camera view, I'm going to increase my scale like this. And then for the density factor, bring the group, vertex group, and then adjust the rock scale like this. I'm going to increase the density minimum also, so it looks like some realistic. I think we have completed most of our parts. Finally, I'm going to bring a landscape. For that, make sure that you enabled the landscape add-on. Then press Shift A, mesh. I have a landscape here. Then I'm going to bring it and place it here. Then select the plane and click this, in material properties, click this material and drag it, place it here to the landscape. Then in edit mode, I'm going to scale it and press UV unwrap smart UV project, then rotate it and then scale it like this, then move it here, then again duplicate it, place it here and rotate it, then scale it. Then in camera view, I think I want a little bit, way more scale for this landscape. There is final another important thing. I'm going to bring a cube. This is for a fog. I'm going to scale it. Then in shader editor, click new. I'm going to rename this as a fog. Then delete this principal BSDF node. Click the volume, drag it, and then search for principal volume and then reduce the density to 0.002. Now I think we have all we want, and click render. Then in world properties, click this yellow icon, bring the sky texture. I'm going to change this to cycle because you can clearly see the sky texture option is not available in Eevee, so I'm going to change this to cycles. Then in here I can reduce my values. If any one of you don't know what is sky texture, it is a free in Blender. It will give some realistic sunlight effect. You can make the lightning as a day or night. See, likewise you can change anything you want. First I'm going to make it as a default to 1. Then I'm going to reduce my strength to 0.5 and reduce the sun elevation to 2. Nope, I think 9 will be good. Then sun rotation will be 95. I think this looks fine for me, and it looks some more realistic also. How about reducing my strength to 0.2? No, 0.3. This looks fine for me. I think all the process I completed. Yeah, finally there is another important thing. I'm going to reduce my max samples to 128, and then I'm going to in light paths, click and drag, select everything, type 3, then disable this both option, and in performance I'm going to enable my persistent data. These are my render settings, and finally if you want you can change the color management, but I think the default one is fine. I think I'm going to reduce my density to 0.001. Okay, likewise now I'm going to render it. That's all. Now we have successfully completed it.